Yo guys, welcome. If you're taking every single zone on NQ, this video is for you. Because most traders are not losing because they need another strategy. They're losing because they're calling every decent looking area an SNDR. And believe me, I used to do the exact same thing. I would see a zone, I would see some movement, and then boom, I'm convinced that this is the trade. But the SNDR model isn't just finding a zone and pressing a button. There is a process, structure, narrative, zone, and entry. And if one of those four things is missing, for me, it's not an A+ trade. So today I'm going to show you exactly how I filter these SNDR setups on NQ, what makes a zone valid, and when I simply stay out. Without further ado, let's go. Before we talk about the entry, let's talk about the bigger picture. The SNDR strategy is not just something that I discovered yesterday and decided to trade live. The roadmap is pretty simple. You choose your financial goal, you choose a trading model, you backtest that model, you find your expected win rate, you fix your mistakes that you're making, and only then you go live and stick to the rules. For the SNDR model, I want a meaningful sample size. Not just 10 trades, not 20 because you had a good week. You need hundreds of backtested trades to understand how your model behaves. Because just one winning trade proves nothing. And just like one winning trade, one losing trade proves nothing either. The data tells you whether your model has an edge and whether you're actually following it. Let's look over the first filter, and that is structure. Before even looking at entry, I need to know what the market is doing. I'm looking at the swings across multiple time frames, such as the 4-hour, 1-hour, 15-minute, 5-minute, and 1-minute. Where are my protected highs? Where are my protected lows? What is the current order flow? Is the market wanting to push higher? Is the market wanting to push lower? Are we in a clean move, or is everything overlapping and messy? Because if structure is unclear, I'm not trying to predict it. I'm not gonna say, well, maybe this is the low. Maybe it's not a trade plan. And now another important part of the SNDR plan is counting your swings. So after the third swing, I'm not interested in blindly taking continuations just because price is still moving. This is where a lot of traders actually get caught. They see a strong move and just think that it's gonna continue forever. But the third swing changes the context. And I avoid extending into a move that is already mature. And let me be clear, the third swing does not mean price must reverse. It means that I stop pretending that a continuation is guaranteed. I wait for structure to give me information. That's literally the whole idea. The second filter is narrative. This is where I ask, what is price actually wanting to do? What is it trying to achieve? Is there an equal low just sitting below where I trade? Is there equal high up above somewhere sitting above liquidity? And most importantly, am I trading from something that is obvious already on the higher or the lower time frame? A zone can look perfect but still be the wrong trade if narrative is against it. For example, I'm looking to long this SNDR, but price is sitting against obvious equal highs. I need to understand what those equal highs represent. Maybe price wants to take liquidity first and then trade higher. Maybe my long is too early. Maybe the zone is a good trade, but it's just sitting at the top of the range, right? So the location is bad. And this is the difference between actually seeing a setup and understanding a setup. I don't want to trade a zone in isolation alone. I want to know where that zone is located inside our current market. If I can't explain the narrative in 1 or 2 sentences, I'm probably forcing the trade. Now to get to the most important part, what actually is an SNDR? For me, the SNDR means the zone responsible for the break and close below a protected low or above a protected high. Not a random candle, not the closest zone just because it looks nice. The zone has to be responsible for the break. And as I said, I need a body closure below that swing high or low for the break to be valid. And this is really important because traders love calling every wick a break. A wick can take liquidity, a wick can reject, a wick can do many things. But in this model, I need the body closure to confirm that we actually broke through that protected level. So I identify our current structure, our swing, our break, and I trace the move back to the zone that was responsible for that break and close. Look at this. Price pushed up beyond that high and closed up above it with a body closure. This is something that I can work with. I even took a trade here. Now look at this. Here. It's close to the high, yes. It looks attractive, yes. But it did not cause the break. For me, this area is not an SNDr. It's just an area on the chart. Oh Ziga, but why are you picking random zones? I get that. There is a rule here. The zone needs to match the time frame of structure that I am using. I cannot use a tiny M1 zone to justify the break for the 15-minute structure. If the 1 hour structure broke, I need to understand that the responsible zone needs to be on the appropriate time frame. Otherwise, I'm mixing completely different pieces of information and calling it confluence. This is not confluence, that's confusion. So once structure, narrative, and zone are aligned, then I can think about the entry. My entry is at the 50% of the SNDr. The stop goes behind the zone. The target is based on what I have tested and what works with my model, whether that's 1R, 1.5R, 2R, or something else from the data. The most important part is that I calculate my risk beforehand. Not after the trade has already tapped and went, not after I see the candle moving against me, beforehand. I already know how much I'm risking, I already know where the stop is, and I already know where the invalidation is. Now let's talk about something that keeps me out of trouble. No zone, no trade. If price never comes back to my zone, I don't chase it. I don't care how clean the move looks. I don't care if it goes 10 points and without me. The market is not gonna disappear. The evals and PAs are always gonna be there tomorrow. There has never in the history of prop firm trading been a day where you had to make that money back today. Never. If I miss the entry, I miss the entry. If price runs without me, okay, I'll just wait for the next opportunity. I also follow my timing rules. Do not trade directly on market open. Wait a couple minutes into the market open to see what price is currently doing. If there's high impact news, do not trade on high impact news. After a trade, I take a minimum 30-minute cooldown before considering another one. Because the trade after the trade is where emotional decisions start appearing. Let's say you lose one trade, and then you suddenly want to win it back immediately. And again, right? And you take a lot of more losses that you would have originally took. That's emotional vomit. I don't trade from that state. So let's put everything together. First, I check the higher time frame structure. I see that we are currently failing to put in a new low. And structure was broken with a body closure to the upside. So we are expecting longs. So structure right now is bullish. On the narrative side of things, we see a double bottom here. We also see that we are in the bottom of the range, right? So we are longing here. On the 1 hour, I do see an MM present, which does signal to me that we could be going higher. On the 15-minute, we also flipped price action bullish, and we have created, right, the flip, and now the closure up above, which marks that the second swing. And this would be now the protected low. With bullish structure and narrative, we move over to zone. Now, which zone is the last zone before we broke structure to the upside, right? It's this. This is the last down move. The last swing on the 15-minute structure that is responsible for the break and a body closure up above that high. Now, moving over to the lower time frame, I mark out the zone. I plot the entry right on the 50%, I set an order, and then I watch price deliver. I don't go by which zone is the prettiest, I go by the last down move before price put a body closure up above that high. If price never comes back, I do nothing. If narrative changes, I do nothing. If structure is unclear, I do nothing. That is not being scared. That is following the plan. If you guys want, pause the video right here and write these 4 words down. Structure, narrative, zone, and entry. And before you take your next NQ trade, ask yourself, are all of these 4 present? Not 3, 4. Because a setup that's missing even one filter is not an A+ setup. If it's helping you, leave a comment down below. With which pillar are you breaking most? For me, the biggest lesson was learning not to force an entry. Because I always wanted to be in a trade. I wanted to make money. So that's it. That's the whole filter. Structure tells me what price is doing, narrative tells me why and how. SNDr zone tells me which area is responsible for the break, and the entry rules tell me exactly how I need to enter without improvising. No zone, no trade. Clarity, no trade. No chasing and no emotional entries. Your strategy is never the problem. A lot of times, it's you breaking your rules. If you guys want to learn this strategy from the foundation up, I've put together a foundation kit for traders wanting to learn SNDRs. It's free and I'll leave a link in the description below. Start there, study the process, backtest it, then think about putting real risk on. Like and subscribe, trust the trade, and follow your rules.